So if you struggle with emotional eating, at some point you might have wondered, would this fix it? Maybe you've seen Ozempic or other weight loss drugs and think maybe this is the solution to my issue. You know, we see these drugs everywhere on social media, in the subway, maybe it's doctor recommended, and maybe you've thought, what if I suppress my appetite? Would that stop the food noise? So if my appetite's suppressed, the food noise is quieter, and I might actually be able to finally feel free around food. And before we go any further, this video is not about shaming you, and it's not about shaming those that choose to use medication. This is really about understanding why emotional eating doesn't really go away even when your appetite decreases or the weight goes away, and what actually creates lasting peace and ease around food and in your body. Because emotional eating is not a hunger problem, and it's not a discipline issue. So let's start with what medications like Ozempic really do. So they essentially suppress your appetite, they slow your digestion down significantly, they reduce your food intake, which often leads to weight loss. And for some people, and I've had clients say this reduction in food noise feels like an exhale. But here's the key question that most people aren't asking. What happens when emotional eating isn't driven by hunger? Because in essence, emotional eating is driven not by your physical need for food, but by something deeper, by an emotional need. And we're just putting food on top. So for a lot of my clients who are ambitious women, this emotional eating is driven by stress, when shame is triggered, when their emotions feel overwhelming, when their boundaries are crossed and they feel unsafe, when their old patterns get activated. And that's when medication reaches its limit. So why is emotional eating different? So at its essence, at its core, emotional eating is not about the food. Food plays a role, and that's why on some of these medications you might feel that relief and you're seeing the scale go down, but it's not the absolute solution to your emotional eating. Food, in essence, when you're an emotional eater, food in essence is used to help you calm your body, to distract, to soothe from discomfort, distress, overwhelming emotions. And it's a pattern you would have learned really early on when you're very young. Because when we are developing, when we're still children, we need our parents or caregivers to help us meet those emotional needs and to show us how to meet them and to help us regulate ourselves. And if we didn't have parents or caregivers that were able to model that to us, to hold that space for us, we had to learn to cope with our emotions versus move through them. And this is where we would have latched onto food. Food is very much associated with love, with comfort, with soothing. We feel good when we eat it, and it's really accessible. And so our brain says, oh, this makes me feel a bit better. It's not really getting into the root of it, but it becomes the Band-Aid. And if we keep going back to it, it becomes automatic and it becomes our coping mechanism. And usually in childhood, we tend to associate food also with if we were sad, maybe our parents gave us a cookie or ice cream, or we were rewarded with food. It helped us celebrate. And so we have all of these associations with food. But if we really boil it down on a chemical level, on a biochemical level, when we eat food physiologically, it gives us a dopamine kick. It makes us feel good. And so that is kind of dulling the pain, the discomfort that we're feeling underneath, and helping us to feel okay. So whenever our emotions, our discomfort, our distress, it's triggered, our body remembers, oh, food made us feel okay. And it becomes this automatic pattern that we go to. So if this is deeper than food and you start suppressing your appetite with these weight loss drugs, you're not actually hitting the root of this, because the food is not actually filling a hunger level. The food is actually replacing your need, your emotional need. And so when you take the food away, you no longer have it. And you're sort of left with all of this uncomfortable emotions underneath, and you have nothing to actually meet those deeper needs. And so what I tend to see with clients, and my clients are smart women, they're ambitious, they have tried all of the different things out there. So many of my clients have tried diets, personal trainers, they've tried therapy, willpower, tried the supplements, and now some of them have tried medication. And what I often hear is that I'm eating less, but I still have this urge to eat, but I physically can't eat. And that's when we know this problem is so much deeper than just about controlling food. And so the urges to eat are still there, even though they know they don't want more food. And this is when it can become scary, because the medication is not healing you at this level. Because essentially your coping mechanism, you took it away and you haven't replaced it with something that meets your actual needs. And so weight loss doesn't automatically equal you feeling okay. So this is the part that no one talks about. Just because you lose weight doesn't mean you feel safe in your body. It doesn't mean you trust yourself. It doesn't mean you have emotional regulation. And it doesn't mean that your nervous system is calm. If anything, this can create pressure of, something's wrong with me. I remember when, I wasn't using medication, but I reached my goal weight and it just felt really empty. There was, after you get the compliments and you're sort of boosted externally, you get this external validation, there's nothing to keep you there. And it can feel really fleeting. Or you can feel this pressure of you have to keep this up. You have to maintain this level of weight loss. And you have been doing it in a way that doesn't feel effortless. It feels like there's a lot of focus and restriction and intensity on it. And so if you decide that you want to go off the medication, you've reached your goal weight, and you haven't dealt with your deeper emotional eating, the weight will come back on, because the moment you hit a stress patch or you hit discomfort and you don't have a way to move through it, you're going to go back to your emotional eating pattern. You're going to go back to your old coping because you haven't realized how to move through it and get to the other side. Because by using medication, the root of your emotional eating was never truly addressed. So what actually stops emotional eating? Well, it requires a few things. It requires you learning about your emotional eating triggers, discerning true from emotional hunger. And that means you have to be in touch with your body's physiological hunger and its emotional hunger, and learning the difference between the two. When you're on weight loss medication, it's impacting your digestive system. It's impacting the way you digest food. It's slowing down that process. And so you can't tap into your true hunger signals and your emotional eating and your emotional hunger. And so this is a gateway into finding out more and more about your triggers. When you can start seeing when you're triggered, when you can see the signs that you're emotionally hungry, we can use those triggers to go deeper. And these triggers help us to get to the root of what is triggering them. And so when I'm working with clients, we're learning to discern true from emotional hunger, we're catching triggers, and we are supporting the body so that we can see where, if you have body shame, that might trigger emotional eating. And we're using those triggers to go deeper to the root. I use somatic psychotherapy with parts work and inner child work to get to the root of these patterns in the body, to start meeting those deeper emotional needs, and teaching clients how to do that so that they are no longer using food to cope. They're actually meeting their deeper emotional needs so that they're resolving their emotional eating each time these triggers come up, so that food can no longer be the band-aid as you're meeting those deeper needs. And this is what creates a true safety in the body, true emotional regulation. This is where food is no longer a band-aid, a coping mechanism. You're meeting your deeper needs, and the body can shift to its healthy. We're actually creating that ease and peace and safety in the body so that it can start releasing weight. It can start having better moods and digestion and all these things that are impacted when you're an emotional eater. And so you don't need to take a medication to do this. This is a process of meeting your deeper needs. And so this is why when I'm working with clients, the work inside of the Emotional Eating Evolution program focuses on true nourishment, body acceptance, and emotional wellness, along with trauma-informed somatic tools. So if you're considering medication, my intention is to help you ask those deeper questions. So what is food doing for me emotionally? And what would happen if I learned to meet those needs directly? Because that's where real freedom lies. So if you want support in resolving your emotional eating, I would love to invite you to find out more about the Emotional Eating Evolution program. This is my 12-week container with the weekly support, step-by-step process, one-to-one sessions, and the deeper tools to get you to ease and peace and confidence around food and in your body in a sustainable way, And as a first step, if you want to download my free guide, What Are You Truly Hungry For? This guide will help you start learning to discern true from emotional hunger and catching your triggers. So the details for both of those are below. Thank you so much for watching. If you have any questions, please let me know. Please be sure to like and subscribe. I look forward to sharing more with you, and I hope you have a great day.